Okay. So we're here. We got Coach Jimmy Obleda joining us. Coach, Saturday's game at Greenville, we noticed that Coach John Harkes, who I believe is a frequent watcher of the show, was wearing a T-shirt from the supporter group out there, the Reedy River Riot. So our friends at the Pack, they were wondering if we came up with a good shirt design, if you would wear that on the sideline and represent the Pack.
Absolutely, no problem. But I'm going to
Okay,
tell you right now, I'm not wearing the Rusty Red Wolf shirt.
you're not see because they gave us a
No, I
concept.
know, I
No.
know, I know, I know. No, listen.
Soccer chat with two T's because we're going to chat about soccer, but we're also in Chattanooga. So it's like a play on words. And, Chattanooga is a soccer city.
I had to cut you off there, Coach, because you played it perfectly without even knowing what we were going to bring up or what. Let me rephrase what Alex was going to bring up. You perfectly played that, so well done.
Yeah, I can see that one coming a mile away.
One of these days, I'm going to get agreement. So welcome to Soccer Chat, the joke that was so unfunny, it's become funny again. I'm the host, Alex. We've got Adam with us as well. And of course, we're kicking off tonight with Coach Jimmy Obleda. Thank you so much for taking time to join us and talk to the fans.
No, thank you. I mean, it's always a pleasure to get on with you guys and truly talk about our team.
So you look at the standings, and the Red Wolves are in the top half of the table. Had a points per game basis, we're looking pretty good. But you look through the season, and you see that it feels like there's points that we've left out there on the field. We're coming off of two games in a row that we haven't been able to come away with a win. We've lost. What are you looking for from the team as we go into this Saturday's game and trying to turn things around?
Oof, there's a lot of things. I think probably the most important one is regaining our identity of kind of who we are, understanding where we play, what we represent, and kind of what has made this team, or not just this team, but the last few years, our DNA of who we are. And so just kind of regaining ourselves, kind of finding ourselves, and kind of finding again our identity in what we need to do to be successful.
So let me follow up with that identity thing. If you watch any League One broadcast, especially one that may have a gentleman by the name of Ross Davenport running it, they would argue that our identity is being cheap shot artist, rough, maybe even a little bit of a team that's likely to cause a fight or two is the way they seem to describe us. But I wouldn't agree with that. What would you actually say is the identity you're trying to get the team back to?
Well, first of all, I think I haven't. Maybe I don't listen to Ross, so that's probably a reason why I don't
You're
hear
the
that.
lucky
But
one.
yeah, unfortunately, people identify a team with a passion and driven and motivated, and a team that has that plays with a purpose, or needs to play with a purpose, because obviously the last couple of games we haven't, but that looks to play, that looks to again, I want to say it, a modern game. I mean, we watched Real Madrid, we watched yesterday Man City, and again, are we that? Absolutely not. But do we intend? Is that ultimately our intention of being that type of team? I think, and you guys have been here from day one, I think you've seen my intention, or our intention has always been to be that team that is going to be in your face, that's going to press, that's going to win the ball. That ultimately intent is for us to have the ball. And that is ultimately what we want to do. Again, I look at those teams again, the Real Madrid and Man City yesterday, and gives me some reassurance of what we are trying to do. Yeah, we've had two hiccups, two little bumps in the road that, in the big scheme of things, get us hungry, get us humble, get us back our feet on the ground of going back and finding who we are. But gives me, like I said, some satisfaction saying that's what we want to do. That's ultimately the way we want to play, and that's ultimately where we want to be. And people interpret the game the way they will, and there's nothing I can do about it. All I can do is put a good product, hopefully put a good product out there. And I don't say but us put a good product out there, the team and the club, that people go, something very different than what we're used to seeing in American soccer.
So we had quite a few players that were kind of injured at the start of the year, and some that are still working their way back. We had some players who, through unfortunate issues with visas and things, were late getting to camp. Do you feel like you really have, your squad fully ramped up? Obviously, there's a couple guys that are still coming back from injury you're looking for.
Yeah.
How full do you feel the roster is? How do you feel when you're, selecting a team going into this game Saturday?
Well, I mean, that's a great question because, again, I say this thing. I mean, people don't understand some of the things that we have to deal with day to day with players and not being here in a preseason and stuff. That, again, we have to try to put the best team that we feel out there to be able to play, right? So we do have things that sometimes issues that sometimes come up that make it difficult for us to. I mean, the first few games we had guys that were playing injured. We weren't deep enough yet and stuff. So just to say that we still we're not at full strength. We knew from day one April was going to be a very tough month for us from a number standpoint. We have the whole squad in now, but we still don't have them to be able to play, as you guys have said, Obleda ball or the Red Wolves ball. They can't. We can't do it yet. And for us, it's getting them acclimatized to what we want to do and how we want to play. And I mean, it's not just a physical attribute; it's a mental attribute too. You have to be mentally ready to play that, right? So we've had to be very, very careful in how we've done and gotten players in and getting them in, because again, there's still 26 or 25 more games. There's a long road ahead, and we just can't afford to have guys blowing out, getting hurt, and we've had some injuries, but we just can't have the guys that have just come in, force them to come in so quick that now we're losing them for 2 months or a month, whatever it is.
So you're talking about Obleda ball, but I don't know if you're a big fan of the Cobra Kai television series. My son called it Obleda dough.
Exactly.
If we're going to lean into the Cobra Kai of the fact that no one likes the Red Wolves, we'll be Obleda dough.
That's okay. Listen, I haven't been liked my whole life, so we'll call it, Obleda dough, whatever. You know what I mean? Yeah, for sure. It's not an issue. You know what I mean? It's good. It's good.
So we've talked a little bit as you've been here. You've gotten to watch somewhat of the transformation, and granted, COVID had a lot of effect on this, of the stands. From going from that first year where there was definitely a limit on how many people could be there due to COVID and such, and then last year just slowly starting to come back. This year it's really, there are no more handcuffs on anything, and we're really seeing some significant crowds. Can you talk a little bit about what those crowds mean to the team, to you as a coach, and specifically what it is that the team, that the crowd can be doing to help ramp up the team or bring up the team?
Oof. That's probably one of the best questions you guys have ever asked me in all these years that we've done this, again, I like being honest and putting everything, forward and stuff. We owe it to the fans and the support that you guys give us to put a quality out there. We are very, very cognizant of the support that has grown year and year from my first year, 3 years or 2 years ago to now. And every year it's gotten bigger and it's getting louder and it's getting just rowdier. It's becoming an amazing environment to be a part of internally on the field, right? So we understand as a team and as a group what that means and how important it is for us and how important it is for us to represent all the supporters and everyone that comes out and really leave everything on the field, because they are coming, and it's like they said, build it and they will come, right? Build it and they will come. And people are starting to come and support. The growth in this last season has been, I think we've had 2 or 3 2 sellouts for sure. And I think the first one was almost a sellout, if I wasn't mistaken. So that means obviously the name and the club has created something that is growing and is going to continue to grow. I think for us is just, continuing to push us through when things get a little bit, we start towards the end, start slowing down a little bit, getting through, getting up, in that supporter section, figuring out how we get 30, 40, 100 people in there jumping, singing. I think, to be fair, I think that's the one thing we're lacking right now, to be that club, because we have everything else. Is to have a supporter section, that whole red area there, just packed with supporters jumping, singing, bouncing, taunting, whatever we've done. But just once we've gotten there, we've arrived, because that's just going to grow to another level, because seeing what the fans have been each year and the growth and I want to say it the right way, the soccer IQ, that's everyone's kind of now more knowledgeable of the game. And so just the IQ of the people coming to the game and their knowledge of it, once we get that and they're going to go, I want to be a part of that part of the stadium. I think it'll be something I don't want to say we've arrived, but I think as a like the support and everything, I think if we can get to that, we've arrived. And I think for us, that's the one part that we really, really would love to see grow.
Yeah, and I would say to that, like, one thing that is unique about CHI is that you don't have just one section that's doing cheers and screaming. When we went to that, a number of us went to the away playoff game in Greenville. The riot's great. They're loud. There's some really good people involved in that group. Very open, very inviting to others, and I don't have anything negative to say about that group. But the rest of their stands was really quiet. And I think you're right. Once we can really build up that supporter section, it's only going to add to the atmosphere that's already there. So that's definitely something.
And I want to add something, because if you watch when you're in our games, when one part of the stadium starts going, the whole stadium starts going. It's not like you just have 117. I mean, so my point to that is, once that part of the stadium starts going, like the back end, that whole stadium's going to go. Yeah. Because if you watch, like when one person, the last game was so loud, and it's just not one area, it's the whole area. So when you have a whole area, like one area that's almost orchestrating everything, that stadium's going to be something of a different level. Just the atmosphere is going to be a different level.
So as you're traveling around the league, and we don't need to make any baseball stadium jokes, we've pretty much made all of those that we can. But as you're traveling around the league and seeing some of the other crowds and things, is that something that you see? Like, it's basically kind of one organized section. A lot of the rest of it's just kind of there doing the golf clap.
Yeah.
I remember the game last year in Tucson where, a lot of your California-based players' families came, and it almost seemed like we had pretty much taken over the stadium and made it a Red Wolves home game.
Yeah. Well, we had more people there than they did, and they were loud, singing the whole game, jumping up. I don't know if there's some video posted of it. They sang the whole game and jumped up, and I think one of them had a drum, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I was watching on TV, we could hear it.
Yeah. So I think that's kind of what I think. What gives for us to be able to do that is our environment of the stadium. Also, it's so confined, everything's so close together, and once the back end or the other end goes up, it's just going to keep everything more insulated and more. It's just become louder and louder. So I believe that once we can get that supporter section, let's say it right way, up and running, where it's singing, jumping, whatever it is, everyone else is going to follow. Because I know that whole back end. Think about how many games we have where you have a couple people yelling, and then that whole back end, you have everyone getting you have little kids singing songs. You know what I mean? Which is amazing. Little kids singing back there. So, I think once we can get that going, you're gonna see a total shift in kind of how soccer's played and viewed and experienced at CHI.
So one of the other questions that I had about that, so we've brought in a couple players this year that played with other teams in League One. So they've come and been from that visitor perspective. And again, you're lucky, you don't have to listen to the commentators on the League One broadcast. But when we go home and we watch the home games, they talk about in their interviews with the coaches that the coaches say we've got to have our guys mentally prepared when they come to CHI to make sure that that when people are right on top of them. So what have the players that came from other League One places, what have they told them about coming as a visitor and what that experience is like for them?
Well, they're glad they're here.
I've given them apologies for anything I may have said the previous year.
Well, especially Carl is because he was in goal, and we don't really hold back on those keepers, so because they're right there.
Yeah, so I mean, again, it's a pretty incredible environment. Like when you're there on the ground level, grass level, and I think that's the reality of soccer in the world, right? That home field advantage of going into a place and going, holy cow! I mean, I do not want to go play there because of what they're going to do to me, right, or say to me. I mean, that's it. Again, I mean, it's just. We're trying to, I want to say, catch up to what the rest of the world has already done for whatever numbers of years, right? Or South America, and again, that's why when teams come or when we create that environment, it's something where you go, wow, and when guys come and play for us, they're going, wow, now I understand why it was so hard. You know what I mean? Now that I play for us, it's a little bit different, but I can feel what it is, that or I felt what it was to have somebody yelling at me for 95 minutes.
So looking at this weekend, we got some familiar faces coming in with this brand new team.
Yep.
How much of an impact do you think that has on the game for you as a coach to have former assistant coaches coming in and playing? How much does that put an emphasis to you? Does it change it at all, or is it just the business as usual?
I think it's just business as usual. You know what I mean? I mean, I'll be honest, we're in a different place, just mentally, again, these last two results, we have focused on moving forward and correcting what we need to correct. I mean, it could be anybody playing. We need to get a result. We need to play, right? Regardless if I'm playing whoever it is, they played for me or not, whatever. We just have to prepare for the team we're playing against. I don't play against the coach and I don't play against the assistant. We have to play against who we're playing against and the team and what they're going to throw at us and stuff. But I think it's just, for me, I'm more focused on, hey, how do we get the result that we need to get ourselves back where we need to be?
I mean, historically, both yourself and Salchek have a tendency to get some cards from the bench. Which one is most likely this game is all I'm wanting to know, really.
Well, I've been a good boy lately, so
you're gonna let Kevin take it.
Yeah. I've been a good boy, so I'm not planning on getting myself caught up in that, Even though there've been a few times I could have gotten one this year already with the officials and stuff. You know what I mean? It's just. It is what it is. It's the hand we're dealt, and we gotta, like we talked to the players, we gotta take care of what we can control and just get it done.
So as you look at Northern Colorado Hailstorm, the team that's going to be on the field as you play them, who are maybe some of the players that you've identified that you really want to make sure you're prepared to face, and how do you see yourself attacking the game as the final or the opening whistle blows?
Well, I think attacking the game like we've always tried to do, right? Press, win the ball, play, be dangerous. That's kind of our cornerstone of our identity as a team. Finding that again, I think we kind of, I think getting knocked in your teeth every once in a while, getting knocked down is pretty good because it puts you back. Like, we got to go back to who we are, and so getting knocked in the mouth is not so bad sometimes. It's how you bounce back from it. So for us, it's finding that again. They have some weapons, you know what I mean? They have Para, the guy's a handful. He's big, strong, number 9. I know him I don't know him personally, but I know him from Cali. He's out from there. They have the winger, Duhaines, the winger, number 11. They have some weapons. They have some good players that can do what needs to be done. And again, very disciplined team, very organized. kind of knows what they want to do, and so we have to deal with it. But I think those two stand out. Of course, Markey, Markey's going to come in, and Markey, one thing, I've known Markey since he's 8 years old. He loves these games. You know what I mean? So he's going to come in and kind of try to do his thing and stuff. So I'll add an extra what is it, asterisk to him, because he's always been that kid that likes these games, But again, for us, it's really focusing on ourselves, really focusing and trying to get ourselves back to who we are.
All right.
So one of the last things I do want to just,
Yep.
I know we keep touching on the other team, but how much when you look at a team like this that has to start the vast majority of their season, or really all their season, on the road, how much do you think that impacts them as a team? Or if you were coaching in that scenario, how would you how would you approach that? Like their first home game, I don't think is until like 10 games into the season or something like that.
That's a good question. And this is the way I approach it, like that. Like, when you start looking at those things as a coach, you lose sight of the importance of the little things that you have to do to beat them. So when I start saying, oh, well, they've been on these 5 games or these 10 games on the road and stuff, then you kind of lose sight of, like, no, but that doesn't matter. You have to still, they're going to come. Again, FC Tucson. We thought, third game, right? At third game, they're going to be tired. And we just took the foot off the accelerator. And we just kind of said, okay, we're good. And that's not League One. That's what I tried to explain to them. And again, we have a young team, new guys, right? But that's not League One. There's not one team in League One that you're going to say, oof, I got 3 points today. Those days don't exist. They don't exist. They didn't exist last year. They're at least going to exist this year. So if I was to say, they're 10 games on the road, dude, I'm looking at just who they are. They've played every game on the road, and they've had some good results.
Yeah.
Right. So you have to respect them. You got to be like, they don't care. They're used to going into anywhere and playing. Right. They'll probably be more uncomfortable playing at home than playing on the road. So they're used to being in this situation. So I have to approach it like that. And more than anything, I have to make sure that we understand it. The players understand, like, we have to be, there's no team that you're like, easy peasy, we got this. Those days never existed. And they've gotten, I would argue, even more difficult, because teams have gotten so much better. I mean, League One is really, I would argue, it's some level better than some championship games and teams. You know what I mean? But no, I look at it that I need to play a team that's coming into my field, into our stadium. We need to get a result. We need to win. We need to have a different mentality, a different purpose to it, and get, everything falls your way. You get the result that you need to get to keep moving forward, But for us, that's it. I don't look at anything. Again, I don't look at who they're I look at what do we need to do to be able to be successful today.
All right, our very last question.
Yes,
we
sir.
haven't talked to you since that World Cup draw. So for folks that don't know, Jimmy Obleda, Uruguayan descent, played multiple seasons in the professional level in Uruguay. How are you feeling about Group H?
How am I feeling about Group H? Well, I think it's an accessible group for Uruguay. I think it's a group that it could have been a little tougher, let's say, but you still, again, one thing I know about Uruguay and the national team, like, anytime you think it's good, like, you always end up coming short. So they need, right? That's just when nobody gives a penny for them and nobody thinks they can do anything is when they rise to the occasion. When people start throwing the towel in, to Uruguay is when they come up. So I don't put too much on it, like saying that it's good, but I say, we'll get out of group. My concern is if we finish second, you got Brazil coming in the next round, and your tournament's pretty much over, because I think they're going to win the whole thing.
Do you have any thoughts on
we got our
the
World
US
Cup
as
prediction?
well?
Excuse me?
I said, I think we just got our World Cup prediction there, right?
We did, yeah. But
Yeah,
what do you think about the U.S.? You think the U.S. has a pretty good chance of getting out of group?
I think if we can, I'll say it like this. Yes, they do, because I think the hardest thing for the U.S. is going to be qualifying to Europe, qualifying, right? Or the hardest thing for them was to qualify, because most of those guys are in Europe anyway. So they play in that, in that world. And so they're used to that soccer. Playing in the CONCACAF or trying to qualify to World Cup and playing in El Salvador and Honduras and those environments, that was the difficulty. Now that they're in the show, yeah, I don't see why they should not make it out and have a good run. That's again a young team that has tremendous amount of potential.
All right. Well, we're looking forward to Saturday, and we'll see you then. If you're driving in and you stop by the tailgate, feel free to grab a hot dog. We'd love to see you for a minute.
Absolutely.
And good luck to you on Saturday.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys. Thank you for supporting us in the good and the bad, and like everything, we're Red Wolves. We find a way. We always find a way to get to where we need to get to.
Thanks, Coach.
See you guys later. See you soon.
All right. There we go. So, Adam, Coach Obleda kind of gave us his thoughts on what the last couple of weeks have been on the match in Greenville. 1-0 loss on a phantom penalty. So, here's something that I thought was interesting. There's a little bit of controversy. Was the penalty given in the match a handball on Jorge Luna, or was it a trip on Juan Galindez?
I thought it was a trip on Juan Galindez.
That's the way that I saw it too, but I've talked with people who thought that they were calling a handball on that ball ricocheting off of Jorge Luna.
If they did that, that's crazy. But Galindez, whether or not he makes contact of significance there or not, you can't reach with your foot from the ground in the penalty box. So I didn't have a problem with the penalty call. It was bad play by Galindez. It's what happens when a forward is down in the defensive end. They make mistakes.
Now, we have the same referee in lots of games. I don't know necessarily whether this referee has done a lot of other Red Wolf games with the Red Wolves in Chattanooga or not. What I know is that I have seen lots of plays that were more obvious fouls against the Red Wolves, and they were told to get up. Like, the defender actually makes contact with the player.
It's
But
one of those
again,
that
I'm with you. I think Galindez, as he's falling, he's got no need to stick the leg out.
Yeah.
You're just asking for trouble. I'm just saying it seems interesting that the Red Wolves never get bailed out in that sort of situation. Plenty of other teams do get bailed out against the Red Wolves in that situation.
Yeah, and
maybe I'm being biased.
We've talked about this a little bit before, where it does seem like calls are a struggle sometimes for us to get that seem pretty obvious, like they're afraid to call a penalty if it's going to go our way. We've talked about that before. But my whole thing has always been, when it comes to a penalty given against my team, is if it was reversed, would I be arguing that should be a penalty for my team? And I think I would have in that situation. But ultimately, I think Obleda pegged it when he was talking to us. He didn't come right out and say it, but they didn't show up for the first 60 minutes of that game. Like, not until the penalty was scored on them did they seem to really have an edge to attempt to score. And that's not Obleda ball, or Obleda dough, as you put it. And I'm pretty confident he feels like he's been dealing with that all year, from the tone he had when he talked about getting them to buy into Obleda ball, getting them to do those things. I want to, we have a Slack that happens with the pack, and somebody was like, "Hey, I'm not able to watch it. What's going on in the game?" And I was like, "Well, you've seen just as much of the excitement as I have," and that was like the 50th minute, because it was bad. Like, I don't remember in the first half a single time thinking, "Oh, we're going to score here." Do you?
No, I was worried that we weren't really going to cross the half field line into our attacking side. And so, yeah, there was, it was a lot. You did not hear the midfielders' names: Andres Hernandez, Jimmy Villalobos, Jose Carrera Garcia, any of those three. You hardly heard their names. The outside backs, Lombardi and Benton, both seemed like they were very much stuck along the back four, playing more flat, when we know that they like to get forward. And it prevented a lot of service to David Teixeira, who's another person whose name you did not hear a whole lot in the game. as he made his first start. When you kind of want him to be the focal point of attack, and for Rafa Mitzigan and Mo Espinoza to be able to work off of that and get into space and be dangerous. Rafa Mitzigan to me was the only player in that entire game that ever looked dangerous. And I think you're right. It wasn't really until after that penalty got called that you saw the team kind of step up and start trying to press. And by then it was just too late. Um, Wolfman Jeff, who was at the watch party with us, talked about the fact that this was probably the least impressive Greenville team we've ever watched. And
Yeah,
if
that's
our team really showed up and played Obledado soccer, uh, this should have been our chance to steal points on the road against that team where it's been very difficult to play.
And I don't even know that it would have been stealing points because I don't think they're very like either I'm just completely nuts or I just don't think they're very good. Like I didn't watch that and say, "Wow, that's a team that we're going to need to be worried about this year." I watched that and went, "Man, we dropped points. Like we should have won that game." Same thing with Tucson. So like Greenville and Tucson are 2 games in a row where I feel like, what in the world? Those are 2 games of 2 teams that I will not be shocked if they miss the playoffs.
Hmm.
And we played pretty much our worst 2 games in back to back on that. Um, Richmond, who we beat, wasn't massively impressive to me either. Like we haven't played anyone yet where I've said to myself, "Man, they're impressive," right? But the thing that really should worry you if you're a Red Bulls fan is we have played 5 teams: North Carolina, Greenville, Tucson, Ford, and Richmond. 4 of those 5 teams are the bottom 4 teams in the table. And we are only at 7 points. Things have to change quickly because it's only going to get tougher. We need players to get healthy and a blade of ball to start being a thing quicker, or else we could really be looking back at April and May and saying that's what kept us from getting a number 1 or 2 seed and being stuck at the 5 or 6 and on the road for all the playoffs.
So now that we've rained and showered all sorts of doom and gloom, how do you feel going forward? I think ultimately that Jimmy Obleda and the staff that he's assembled are going to be able to figure it out. I think there are lots of encouraging signs that I've seen from Rafa Mitzigan, from what Mo Espinoza has been able to do, from Aaron Lombardi and Devin Benton on the outside. Once we get someone like Nico Cardona and can kind of rotate center backs a little more, to me, it felt like those center backs were kind of tired
Yeah.
in this last game. They've played 6 games. We've had the same, going through. Whether that means maybe moving Devin Benton to the middle, getting a start for someone like Johnny Gardarama, who came from Park City and hasn't made an appearance yet, to get a little more speed in the back line and allow one of these guys to have a night off and get some rest. Um, there's a lot of those changes that could happen. I think ultimately they will find their identity. Some of these players will be able to stand up. To me, I don't think Andres Hernandez, based on what I was watching, was ready to start that game, but he's going to be ready soon. He's a player that has, a pretty good track record in South America and has been, can be a good player. And he's getting adjusted to being here in the United States, first time playing in America, that there may have been some adjustment. And I just don't think he was quite ready, but eventually he'll rise to that level and be able to give them what they need. And there's a lot of young players like Josue Cartagena, Mo Espinoza, that are getting some good experience that late in the season when we may need them, because we have a guy that we're trying to keep ready for the playoffs, they'll be able to step up and help us. Do you have
Yeah.
positive things to say?
uh, yeah. I mean, I don't disagree with those statements, and I do think there's something to that. Um, I just worry, and I think this month is the month that we need to make sure we don't drop points. Is I guess what I'm really ultimately getting at. We've got a really good position of where these games are that are coming up. We're getting to play Hailstorm before they're going to go to Union to play in a game that I think would be really important to Union and to Hailstorm as an opportunity to move forward in the U.S. Open Cup. That's on the 11th. So I'm be interested to see how much what type of team that is put out there. Will they try to save some bodies for that Omaha game? Because unlike being matched up against another MLS team, they got kind of lucky and they're playing a League One team, and they're basically almost guaranteed that if they win that game, they get that bonus money for going further in the Open Cup. So I wonder how important they're going to make that, how big of a deal they're going to make that. Is that going to help us? On the other side, the week after that, we get Central Valley Fuego, who will be coming off the Greenville game. It'll be in the middle of the road trip for them. So there's an opportunity there is what I'm getting at. And these are home games, right? We get a home game with Hailstorm, a home game with Fuego, a week off, and then a home game with Greenville. These 3 games in the month of May, and that's it. Just these 3 games in the month of May. That's it. Because it's June 1st is the is the game versus Richmond. But these are the only 3 games. I think we got to get wins in all 3, and I don't think it's unreasonable to think we can.
So as you're looking for the game with Colorado, you're talking about possibly are they going to be looking ahead to the Omaha game? Are they going to be rotating players? What are you expecting to see with Eamon besides a really fancy sweater, Instagrammable sweater combo?
That's a given. Let's just be honest. So he's got a talented team. I mean, Coach mentioned a number of players in Para and obviously in Marky Hernandez, but who he didn't mention was Ethan Vandercourt, who's pretty darn good player to not be even thought of, and to not be a miss as much as just those other guys are that important to this team. He didn't mention defender Leo Fala, who I think is a really strong defender, not just because he's a former Red Wolf. He's someone I enjoyed watching play. Right, this is a talented team, and one that can actually afford to do some rotation and still be in a good place. Right, like if you go look at who they've got on their team, they're not lacking for attacking talent. So they're going to bring, the attack to you. What I worry a little bit about when you go look and you go back and you look at their matches, and they've only played 3 games in the League One, but they've played 2 Open Cup games. If I'm them a little bit, as much as they got all that talent on offense, they're not actually scoring that many goals, which is surprising, right? So then I start wondering, is Eamon struggling to get them to be a cohesive unit on the field, right? They lost to the Charlotte Independence in Charlotte. They beat in North Carolina FC 2-1. They beat the Real Salt Lake at the very last minute, 1-0. They tied Richmond Kickers 1-1. Like, these are not high scoring affairs, right? They beat Switchbacks 1-0. You're not seeing 3 goals. You're not seeing 2-0. You're not seeing easy gains for them. I think that bodes well for us, because I think ultimately they don't have the depth on the defensive end like they do on the offensive end, but the offensive end is the area that he's not getting results from.
So, and I think to that point, you see them, the goals that they give up. They score first in the Richmond game. They scored first in the second half. They gave up the goal that tied it to Emiliano Terzaghi. In the game against Charlotte, they scored early. They got a penalty kick that put them ahead 1-0, and then they gave up 2 goals. One of them, in stoppage time to fall to Charlotte. And then, as you said, they were able to kind of cling. I'm sure they probably took a pragmatic approach against Salt Lake City, and came away with a goal that I think was in the overtime. I think that game went to overtime.
That one was in the 70th. So
okay, so it was still late.
It was the Colorado Switchbacks game that they scored in the 96th, which was in extra time. To win that one. And that was after being down a red card in the 27th minute. So that was a pretty impressive win back on April 6th. But
so you may have a point that Eamon is taking some time trying to, install his offense, show them, what it is, the way that he wants to attack with a completely new team. It's a little simpler for Red Wolves because we have returning guys that understand what Coach Oblate is wanting.
I'm just imagining it's Eamon's eye just constantly showing that video of him in Iran scoring the hat trick in the last. Like, this is what I want. I just imagining him saying that over and over again. Actually, I'm very much kidding. One of the things that I was really impressed by Eamon when he was here, there was a night that we had back at CCS where it was like bring your dog night. and I'm walking my dog around, and I'm behind where he's behind talking to players, and he's like giving instructions to younger players about positioning yourself, about playing off the ball, and he's actually talking, to players about like how to improve themselves. And if he does that and continues that, I think he's gonna be a strong coach. And I think he's obviously got someone we have a ton of respect for in Kevin Salchak helping him along the way. So it's not that I don't think they're going to be well coached, but I just don't know that it's yet clicking. And even though coach seemed to ignore it, I do think there is something to you're on the road for everything. Like they've played 3, League One games. They played 2 Open Cup games. This is their 4th League One game. Then they've got an Open Cup game. Then they've got another League One game. That's a lot on the road. And as much as it may be what they're used to, it's still not easy, right? It's not like these guys are flying luxury and staying in luxury hotels. Like that's a lot of time on the road. And yeah, we're not getting him at the end of May before they go home. But it's still their 6th game on the road in a row, and they still got 3 more to go after that before they supposedly get to have a home game on June 8th, even though they're not selling tickets yet.
Games which involve flying east, and then flying back west. The thought of having to get out of the house and go to my son's game that's on the north side of Chattanooga tends to exhaust me. So I can only imagine.
And I'm curious how much they're actually flying back, right? Like, I'm sure they flew back, obviously, for the Real Salt Lake game. Like, they played Charlotte on April 16th, then they played Real Salt Lake, then they played North Carolina. Did they fly back after playing North Carolina before they're going to play us on May 7th? Like,
It seems if you're a new club and you're trying to build a stadium, it may actually be more expensive to have everyone put up in a hotel for a week in finding a place to train than it would be to fly back home, train during the
yeah,
week,
you're
get back
probably
to
right.
Chattanooga.
Yeah, you're probably right on that. I just look at what they're having to do and just think, golly, I'm just glad I'm not in their shoes, because that's just a lot of travel.
Also, they probably would be too big for me because I have kind of small feet. But that was a shoe dad joke, by the way.
Well done.
So, like Coach Obleda said, we expected Tucson maybe to come in a little tired. They had played a Saturday, then a Wednesday, lost that game to Cal United, uh, and yet it seemed that they were the ones who finished stronger and with more energy in that game. So the players for the Red Wolves cannot sleep on that. They cannot say, "Oh, these guys obviously they're so tired." You never know. Some of these guys maybe have been talking with Markey, and he's saying, "Oh yeah, it's tough having to travel. I don't really love it." Which I wouldn't blame him for saying, even if he's willing to do it because he loves the game. Um, you can't turn off, and that's the biggest thing for me that has affected the team is these little windows where they turn off.
Yeah.
Juan Galindrez comes on a substitution, and it's like that small break in the game. The defense shut off, and all of a sudden, the Greenville player was dribbling down to the end line and putting a cross in the box that ended up leading to that penalty. And things like that happening again in Tucson, where it was just, we switched off for a minute, got the ball stuck in our feet, we got a turnover, and they're running down the field past everyone. Those sort of things need to get cleaned up, and you can't take for granted that, oh, we're going to get we're going to get a goal in the 30th minute and we're just going to sit on it because these guys are going to be tired and they're going to wear out. You've got to go for the jugular, get the goal, get the second, get the third, get a fourth.
Yep, agreed. All right, so let's do our predictions. Sure to go wrong. What's your prediction for this this match?
I think as much as I would love to see them go for second, third, fourth goals, sixth goal gets Alex's shirt off in the stands. Just leaving that out there.
So stop at 5. Got
it. Yeah, well, I mean, I think this is going to be a game that ends 1-0, maybe 2-1. It's going to be a 1-goal game, back and forth.
Okay. So I won't be there for this match. I will be in Nashville for an Academy tournament. Thank you to the Nashville Academy for setting up my son's game to start at 6:30 Eastern time to make it literally impossible to make it in time. So thanks for that. I am pessimistic, and I hate being right. So I'm going to have this be a 0-0 snooze fest.
Just because you can't be there, you got to put that on us.
Yeah, 0-0. Hey, I'm gonna be watching it on my phone in a hotel room. So yeah, 0-0. That's my prediction. I just think I haven't seen much happening on the offensive end for us like we have in years past, and I don't know what's not clicking, but Rafa's doing everything he can. I feel like we need either Glendrez or Teixeira to show up top. I don't think Brian's going to get a ton of time as those guys get healthier. And it's not a knock on Brian at all. I just think that Coach has a different type of player he imagines up there than Brian. I think he'll still be used as a change of pace guy because he is a different type of player, especially than Teixeira. But it's going to be one of those two guys starting up top. And I just don't think they're clicking yet. Doesn't mean they won't click. It doesn't mean I expect this to always be the case, but I think right now we're still struggling to get that going. So 0-0.
All right. Well, on that cheery note, I will be at the match. Wolfman Jeff, who couldn't be here tonight, will be at the match on Saturday. And we all look forward to seeing you there, getting loud, getting rowdy, enjoying the lovely weather. And bye.
Yeah. Bye. Man, without Wolfman here, it's really hard to have some sort of ridiculous statement at the end other